Hi guys, thank you so much for tuning in to RAAH Fest and especially to this Q&A that we're bringing to you today. Usually we would be doing like a post-show discussion after one of our performances, so we're trying to be as close to that as possible, but of course we usually have a big audience that asks us questions directly that we can respond to. Today we're doing it slightly different, so I've just invited someone to join me on this little Q&A. And just as a form of introduction, my name is Anja and I'm the Artistic Director and founder of Justice in Motion, which is a physical theatre company based in Oxford that works in the performing arts to raise awareness about social injustice issues, so matters that are important to RAAH Fest just as much as to us as well, whether it's migration, poverty, sexual exploitation, modern slavery, isolation, you name it. So those are topics that we like to pick up in our shows with Justice in Motion. And I'm joined here on the panel today with Amabel Luers from ASIOX, one of the co-founders. So I'm going to hand over to you, Amabel, to introduce yourself a bit more and tell us about ASIOX.
Sure, thank you so much. Hi everyone. Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's an honor always. So yes, my name is Amabel. I am a part of ASIOX, Anti-Slavery Initiative Oxford. We've been going about a couple of years now, 2 years. We are basically have been a community action and awareness raising group. Really briefly, just to give you the context of how we came about, but I was living and working in the US, and I was involved as a volunteer primarily with charities that were working with girls that had come out or were trapped in the sex trafficking industry. And and when I moved to the UK for personal reasons, I was looking for ways to get plugged in to the abolitionist movement here, and really there was nothing locally at the time, and so one thing led to another, and just within my small circle, essentially we just gathered, and a few of us, we started, I think it was 5 of us, and then we've just been growing slow but steadily, and we're now 2 years in, and at the stage where we're applying to become a charity, which is really exciting. So
amazing.
And I'm happy to share more about that later, but I would love to hear and for you to share, Anja, with our audience more about Justice in Motion, like how you came about, what is it that you do, for those who don't know you.
Okay, you might have seen some of our trailers already from the different shows that we have, and you will see that we combine a lot of different art forms in a way in our productions. So whether it's dance or theatre or film or parkour, aerial acrobatics, music, of course, sometimes live music even, and we combine those to tell stories that are relevant, first of all, but also we start usually by doing a lot of research about the topic. That's kind of where it all starts. So if there's something like a story or a case study or someone's journey that I hear about, that is usually when I get excited or interested. And then in my mind is like, okay, how could we bring that to the stage? How could we share that in a way that is engaging, inspiring, impactful somehow, and that really changes people's hearts and attitudes and behaviors even. So that is so important for us. That's why we bring it to the stage. And to be honest, Justice in Motion started about 7 years ago now, a little more than that. When I felt passionate about that, I wanted to tell a story about modern slavery. And so did a lot of research, first of all, and then asked a few people, similar to you actually, just get a bunch of people together that are creatives and that kind of share the same passion about telling those stories. And we created this mad piece in a way called Bound, that we got to present in Oxford in October 13. And the idea was initially we make this piece, but as we were in the process of creating it, we were like, actually, there is more stories to be told, and this feels like just the first one in a series of many, many, many more stories, because there's more that needs to be uncovered and talked about. And so we set up Justice in Motion as an umbrella organization to create those stories, and yeah, and to create positive change, really, to inspire people, to engage people in the conversation, to debate about issues as well, to learn more ourselves, but also then to invite others to share that learning and to learn with us. Yeah, and so over the years, we've been really blessed, really, and excited to meet a lot of different organizations as well. So in the process of making a show, we will be inviting partner organizations such as yourselves, ASIOX, to share about your experience. And we've worked with Hope for Justice and Unseen, the Madej Trust. We've worked with the Salvation Army, as well as the Chartered Institute of Building, for example. So different organizations that work in the field of the topics that we explore. And so that really helps and aids our research, but also, we hear the case studies, we hear from the survivors. And so that's really informing all of the process, the creative ideas that then come and bubble up. And then we all bring that to the stage. Eventually, it's a piece of theatre that people can come and watch and enjoy. But then also we follow it up with a poster discussion, usually. Where we invite those speakers from organizations to share, and for audiences to be able to ask more questions and to really go, what can be done, or what are the signs to spot, and so on. So there's different questions that usually come up, and when people are inspired by having seen a show, they want to do something. But I guess, how did you hear about us? You know what I mean? But how did you get in touch with Justice in Motion in the first place? Because we've known each other for many years, really, as well, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've actually met. You and I met in the dance context, and then I think within the first 5 minutes realized that I think you had just created Bound when we met.
Yeah.
And I had just moved from the States with this desire to be like, okay, I want to get plugged in, and that's where we connected. Was like, all right. And I think we go way back, don't we? But having been an audience member, having seen several of the pieces that you guys create, that you create primarily, I can absolutely 100% attest, like they are so powerful and so impactful, and you really leave with an understanding of the issue on another level. There's something that happens, I'm sure there's some research out there, but like on an emotional level, that's more than reading about a story, but the way that you guys tell stories is extremely powerful. And I think you leave, as an audience member, you leave thinking, okay, what do I do now with this knowledge? But I would love, just talking about, for instance, Bound, I don't know if you want to start with that, but I would love, if you could share maybe how you go about creating a piece like Bound, like how, because we get to see, as audience members, we get to see, and I hope many people that are watching will get a chance to see it live, honestly, one day, but we get to see the finished product, but obviously there's months and months of not only rehearsals, I mean, just the whole imagine, I don't know anything about that, but can you share a little bit about what the process is? What does it look like to develop a piece like Bound, for example, about human trafficking?
So it takes about 18 months to create a piece of theatre of that extent, even longer. So Bound had several reiterations since 2013. We've performed it. We've had 3 tours since, and each time we add in the latest research and so on. So it changes, evolves throughout time, really. But how do we go about? So usually there's something that I hear, a story, as I said before, or some piece of research, or an article, or a film that I watch, or whatever, that inspires me to talk about a subject. So then what I do is I do a lot of research online, reading lots of things as well, and then talking to the organizations that I know work in the field. So really making contact and understanding the issue more, understanding the context, getting a feel for what are the issues really, what is the problem, how can it be solved, or maybe not solved, or how does it come about in the first place? Why are people ending up in a vulnerable position, and so on. So having all of that top level, head level research knowledge in the first place, I then recruit several performers and creative collaborators as well, and we meet in the rehearsal space. And then we look through the research, and usually we discuss it quite a lot, to just draw out like what are the key moments, what are the key things that either are recurring facts, or what is really surprising in a story that we hear like, wow, I never thought that. So then we unpick those more, and then we do different exercises. So we will try to embody not the story itself necessarily, but for example, if one of the common denominators is hopes and dreams, or loss, or grief, or control, or greed, or whatever it might be that is really apparent, that is something we explore physically and emotionally. We do a lot of hot seating. We play around with different choreographies, and that we develop out of that exploration about emotions, for example. And slowly we start building the movement vocabulary. But then we also go into more detail into characters. What are the characters that we want to portray? Who is key? Who is important? Who needs to be telling a story? Do we have a narrator, or do we have it from the first person perspective? Or is it the public that we're trying to portray? Or, kind of making those creative choices, artistic choices. We often have a writer in the room as well, who then picks up on all of the explorations and improvisations, and then writes the storylines. But often we do it as a team together as well. And then it just gets layered and layered and layered and layered, and we take it apart again, and we layer it again and again and again. So it's just, we're basically immersed in that. Quite often in a process, I will also bring in speakers that we can ask questions directly. So once we have a bit more knowledge about the topic, then, and start having questions, then people that have more expertise will be guiding us through that as well. And then we show what we create to representatives, for example, to say, okay, is this accurate? Is this relevant? Is this truthful? Is this sensitive enough? Or are we bulldozing something over? Or so really to make sure that what we share is all right, and is what's needed to be shared. And then we usually we create soundscapes as well. So we've got a composer, sound designer with us in the room as well, who sees the improvisations and then starts creating the soundtracks. And so it is really a shared process and develops over time, to the point where then when we have a kind of a scratch performance ready, we then show it to an audience and see what the responses are, see what is clear, what isn't clear, what needs to be more defined, and so on. And then we go back into the rehearsal space, and then we start making the show. So as I say, it's many months of research and process, while also doing all of the fundraising for that, of course, as well, because we need to fund that entire process. So kind of that happens hand in hand, a few months of doing that, which is absolutely excited to be part of RAAH Fest here right now, because that is one way of raising funds to, so that we can make those productions as well.
Absolutely, and we've talked a little bit about that's super interesting and complex and amazing, by the way. But we talked a little bit about Bound. But interestingly, I feel like I've been, I've known about human trafficking, been passionate about anti-trafficking work for the last 10 years. But to be honest, it wasn't until you were telling me about the piece On Edge that you were creating about slavery in the construction industry that it's like my eyes open, and I thought, how did I not realize Can you talk a little bit about that piece and about the issue of slavery, modern slavery in the construction industry?
So your response, your reaction is quite normal, let's say. A lot of people will have seen Bound and would say, I'm kind of aware of the sex trade, I'm aware of the issues within the hospitality sector as well, but construction, because we pick up on those three areas within Bound. And kind of from that feedback and that conversation, we then started looking into the construction sector as well, and say, why is there so little information and research about that specific sector? And it was fascinating, because I met Chris Blythe, the former CEO from the CIOB, that's the Chartered Institute of Building, and when he met me, he was like, modern slavery and mental health are at the top of our agenda right now. So
Wow.
having seen Bound, this is such a powerful piece.
Wow.
Can we support you in touring this again, or doing something different? I don't know. So then we said, okay, because this is such an issue, such an unknown issue in the construction sector, let's talk about that more, and let's really dive into that further. That set us up on a journey that got even more complex, because we then decided to work with a bunch of parkour athletes who have never done theatre before, and then with theatre performers who haven't done parkour before, because we felt it's the structures we work on usually have a lot of scaffolding, and being on a construction site and the show performs plays on a construction site, we felt that is a really good use of the environment. So doing parkour in this urban environment is very powerful. And we also felt that having done a lot of indoor shows, it would be really amazing if we could take a show outdoors. And so On Edge is particularly developed for an outdoor audience. So the construction I think construction is so prone to exploitation, but it's so unknown. But if you think about it, the longer the supply chain of something, the simpler or the easier it is to infiltrate that and to exploit it at some point. So the top guys might be employing, everything's sorted and legal, and they've got all the right contracts, so fine. The next level down as well, they employ their subcontractors, but at one point there might be a recruitment agency involved as well, who also check all of their employees, but the further down the chain, the easier it becomes for exploitation to infiltrate. But then even further down to, where do the stones come from, right? Are they being shipped in from Nepal, where maybe child slavery has been involved, or where's the timber coming from, or all of that. And that is just in the UK, right? So if you're then looking at Qatar, for example, building the Olympic Stadium, it's full of exploitation, like from the get-go to when finally the players are going to be on the field. So within the construction industry, construction is everywhere as well, and that was something that really fascinated us as well, because literally construction is everywhere. You look around, right now we're in a house, we're in a building, every school, every hospital, every every garden, a garden fence or whatever, there's all construction involved somehow. Every business building, stadium, it's everywhere. So that's kind of the real big issue, that it's happening and we don't see it necessarily because we also don't look, right? And so some of the common abuses of construction laborers, for example, is and I'm going to read out of our little passport, which I should maybe introduce as well. So with the show On Edge, we can't do a poster discussion because it's outdoors. So we decided we would be developing this little passport that we can give out to people with lots of information about the performers, the show, but also from our partners. So Gang Masters and Labour Abuse Authority, for example, the CIOB, Salvation Army. Then also, what is modern slavery? What is forced labour? What is exploitation? And the different definitions we've got in the media, different things that you can check out the articles and so on. But also we've kind of listed the common abuses of construction labourers, and that is unfair payment practices, inappropriate accommodation, long working hours, restriction of movement, extra charges for food and accommodation, for example, unfair contracts, threat of violence, and also a lack of representation. So that can all be forms of exploitation. Not necessarily all of them in one go, but that's kind of what you'd see. And I guess, Amabel, you probably have much more knowledge as well about the signs that you would see within someone, whether it's in the construction industry or within a sex trade, which is much more your speciality, of course. What would you say are the signs that you would tell people, that is, watch out for that, or watch out for that?
I think Yeah, let's talk about that. I think before talking about the signs, I think there's an element of I think when we realize that, you know, they say it's hidden. It's like modern slavery, it is hidden in plain sight, and it is true. We all come into contact with modern day slaves without realizing, kind of every day. So in a way, we as people who go about their daily lives are the best people to be on the ground in different domains, whatever you do in your day to day, to pick up on these things. The way I like to think about it, I think it's helpful when we think about okay, what are the signs, is to think about what is modern day slavery, right? So if we think of it as, okay, it's the exploitation of a human being. It could be by means of force, fraud, or coercion, essentially whereby the person no longer has freedom over their own life to varying degrees, to an extent. And so I think, you know, a victim may look frightened, may not want to make eye contact, may look injured or malnourished, may look like if they're with someone else, it might look like they're under the control of another person. They will most often not have access to their own identification document or passport. Exactly, yeah. I love that book. By the way, that book my son absolutely loves. He just loves. He thinks it's amazing. He saw the show as well, so it's child friendly too. And then if they don't have you know, if their movements are being restricted, so they don't have control over their coming and going, or maybe that you know, you might notice that somebody's being picked up at weird times of the night. And, you know, and I think there's an element of real gut instinct. I think there is a real element of like that sixth sense that we as human beings have, that we just need to tap into more than we do for the most part, especially in the West, because I think there's something there, and I've learned, I'm trying to continue to learn to listen to that and just be, obviously if you don't have much data, you know, many data points, like, you're not going to necessarily do anything but straight away, but just paying attention and thinking, okay, I know this could be happening. Let me just observe this situation, what's happening, because at the end of the day, we have so much power because we have a voice. Those who are being exploited don't have a voice. So I genuinely believe we have a responsibility to be a voice for the voiceless. And I'm probably forgetting other signs, but those are kind of some of the main things that come to mind. What else is there that I'm thinking?
I guess one of the big questions that always comes to us in the poster discussions is what can we do? So, you know, having seen this show, for example, having been impacted and you know, being appalled by what's going on, how can we stop this? What can we do? What can I do as a person, you know, one individual?
Sure.
What power do I actually have? You say, you know, we are powerful, but how? What can we do?
Yeah, and I think it's realizing that we do have more power probably than we realize. I think if we are witnessing a situation that seems where we can tell there's something going on, and it literally could be, as we know, you know, in a nail salon, it can be at a car wash, literally going about your day-to-day life. So we can call the Modern Slavery Helpline in the UK, which is, I actually happen to know the number, it's 08000 121 700. So 08000 121 700. I would encourage you just to put it in your phone if you're watching this. That's great. Yeah, because, and it's, you know, 24/7, confidential. It is, and what I love, so it's run by a wonderful charity called Unseen, you've already mentioned, for all of the UK. But what I love is that they will take tips and you know, build patterns, so that if they're getting, you know, your call might literally be call number X, that you know, is like, okay, the confirmation that this needs to be passed on to the police, and maybe a raid will be done, and maybe a whole trafficking ring will be taken down. It's I've heard so many stories like that. So just becoming a little bit more comfortable to think that, like, no, it's okay to, because we're so used to minding our own business, but it's okay to, so yeah, that's definitely something, yeah, that we need to do more of. Other things that we can do, I think, honestly, knowledge really is power. So I know we're all busy, but like, just begin to read, educate yourself. If you're relatively new to this, there's so much information online. There are amazing documentaries, amazing charities doing this work globally and nationally. There's tons of books. So just start little by little, and just start learning. And then I would encourage you, depending on where you are, just looking at what's going on locally. There may very well be something going on in your area with with a charity that, and you'd be surprised at how, no skill can go unutilized because there's always something that, especially with charities, when they're just starting off like us, like, we'll take any help we can get. So so you never know, you might be a Pilates instructor, you might be a data scientist, I don't know, but there's a place for you. So you need to find it if you have a little time to volunteer, I'm thinking. And I would say, a couple of other things. I would say, if you are a person of faith, pray. That's something that you can absolutely do. And another thing actually that I would add is, I have recently opened the door, because I come from more the sex trafficking field, and then just general, forced labor, domestic servitude. I feel like I've understood all of those. And within the last couple of years with ASIOX, we've started opening the door to understanding a bit more slavery in the supply chain when it comes to our day-to-day, right? Our clothes, the clothes we wear, the food, so the food that we eat, and how there actually is a lot of exploitation going on in those supply chains. And so I think we have power just in that, in what we buy. And I used to buy my clothes from certain stores, it's everybody knows, like Zara or Mango or H&M, and I just cannot bring myself to do that anymore, because I feel this sense of injustice and responsibility that is making me buy less and look at where stuff is made, where is it sourced, and all that. So those are just some of the ways that I think that we can be doing something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, knowledge is power, as you say, and we've seen that so vividly when we did Bound for the first time. It was quite fascinating, actually. Unintended. It was the perfect timing, because it was in October 2013, as I mentioned earlier, the premiere, and that was when, like 2 weeks earlier, the Bullfinch case in Oxford came to light. So if you don't know, anyone watching haven't heard about the case yet, that was a scenario of exploitation of, I think it went on for 9 years, and girls from the age of, I think, 11 to 14 had been repeatedly exploited and sexually abused. And it had just come to light, and the place where it was mostly taking place, or where it's happening, this hotel, was literally on the same road than the theatre that we performed in, 100 meters down the road. And
that gives me shivers.
And it's like we had no idea that was happening in our back garden. Well, on the main street, really, on the doorstep. And one of our performers, she's been telling that literally chilling story that she was a teacher as well, and she used to teach some of those girls. And she had no idea. Like she knew them, and she saw them and was like, well, they're a bit irritating again today, and late again, and they couldn't really engage and didn't engage, and so they were more like challenging within the environment. But would she have known what to look out for and those signs, she would have probably been able to intervene. Then she didn't know, but then having done all of the training with us as well, she was like, now I would know if I'm going into the classroom what I look out for, and I wouldn't be irritated by them anymore, but instead I would try and see how I can help. So even just that shows that the moment you learn more about it, the moment you can really do something, and it will change your attitude and behavior.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that's back to a quote from Leonard Bernstein, who says art can't change the world. He's never brought anyone a job or made anything else possible in that sense, but it can change how people think and feel and their behavior, and therefore that can change and influence the course of time.
Wow.
That's why I'm so passionate about using the arts as one way of communicating and sharing those stories, really. I think we're probably, we've been talking for ages. I think we should probably wrap up.
Yes.
But yeah, what's next for ASIOX? Do you just want to share a little more?
Sure, really briefly. Yes. So I mentioned we're in the process of becoming a charity, which is really, really exciting. And really the main thing for us that's next that we're working on is to set up a befriender program for survivors. So partnering also with other organizations, with charities that are working on the front line with survivors already, and setting up a scheme. So that's what we're doing. So really exciting, and if anybody wants to support in any way, come, we're on all the major social media platforms, and
Can they get in touch? What's your do you have a website yet? Or
so we're working on the website right now, so that will be coming soon. But email address is ASIOX, so standing for Anti-Slavery Initiative Oxford, ASIOX 46, the number M for million, so there's an estimated 46 million slaves in the world today, at gmail.com, ASIOX46@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. And if you're local and you're watching this, please, let us know, and we'd love to connect with you.
And likewise, if you want to check out our performances or want to see anything more what we are doing, we're intending, or we're planning to live stream Bound, which we've recorded on the 18th of October, Anti-Slavery Day, and then the subsequent week as well it will be online, so do tune in then, or see any of our other projects that we're working on. Right now we're in collaboration with a researcher from Oxford University about loneliness and connectivity, and having a really beautiful project that we're conjuring up there, so that will take place during the IF Festival, so IF Oxford Ideas Festival in Oxford during October as well. So everything's happening in October for us before we can go back on tour next year with On Edge as well. And we've got a website, check us out, www.justiceinmotion.co.uk, and if you want to get in touch, then our email address is info@justiceinmotion.co.uk. But check out the website. All of the information is on there, all of our partner organizations as well. You'll find links on the website. If you have any questions, then just get in touch if you want to know more. Otherwise, big shout out to RAAH Fest for inviting us, for allowing us to be here, for allowing us to share a little bit of our story. And guys, go ahead and donate and give and help all of the amazing charities that are supported by RAAH Fest, and let's be part of the tribe, and let's all work together to make a success story out of all of the organizations that are involved. There's merchandise you can buy as well. And just tell people about it. Online today, this is a festival, and then hopefully this can continue for many, many years. So thanks for joining us. Thanks, Amabel, so much for your time, for being with me on this call, and God bless you all. Ciao.
Ciao.